We all know Atlas is hard at work on the next entry in the Persona series. People are just dubbing Persona 6 for right now, but I do feel that there are a number of things that Atlas needs to do and could potentially take from another game that they make with Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance in order to improve and evolve the Persona formula to create something that not only adapts to the modern audience, but at the same time respects what Persona fans are looking for and what they want to see in the series. But before we get into all of that, what's good everyone? OJ here. Welcome back to another video. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you are someone new, and click that notification bell to get my Nintendo Switch RPG videos and more first. And I also want to remind all of my Atlas and Persona fans that I will be doing a PlayStation 5 giveaway for Metaphor ReFantazio, the special edition. So if you want to win that, make sure that you subscribe, click the notification bell, hit the like button, and let me know what your favorite Atlas JRPG is of all time in the comment section below, or your favorite Persona game, favorite SMT game. I am looking through the comments. Now let's go ahead and jump into it here. Let's talk about Persona 5 Royal and Persona 5 just in general, because without going into what happened with this game, there's no way that we can actually make improvements and talk about what they could potentially do. You have to look at the past to see what maybe could happen in the future. So Persona 5 released originally on the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 3 in Japan in 2016. It later came out in 2017 in the US, with most people buying the PlayStation 4 version and the PS3 version kind of seen as an afterthought, which makes sense. We were already a number of years into the PS4 generation at that point, so there was really no point in going back and playing the PS3 version unless you absolutely did not have a PlayStation 4 at the time, which there were people, but this game overwhelmingly sold more on the PlayStation 4, which makes sense. Sony was even having a ton of deals at that time. You can get a PS4 for pretty good prices, so a lot of people that wanted to play Persona had a PlayStation 4, and I really enjoyed the original release. I bought the special edition for like 89 or 100 bucks, came with all that cool stuff in it. I thought it was fantastic. Played it through, beat it, put 100+ hours into it. I was like, cool, this is fantastic. I love Persona. There were some things here and there, but for the most part, I really enjoyed it back in 2017 when I was playing it. The only issue is that I was kind of distracted at times because The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild also came out right around that time as well. It actually came out a little bit before it, and then Persona came out about a month or so afterwards. So I was still playing through The Legend of Zelda, and I kind of put things off just a little bit with it so I can really get through The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. But once I was done, I went right back into Persona, and it's just fantastic. So I have a long history with the Persona series. That's obviously way before Persona 5. I played Persona 3, I played Persona 4, I played the old school Persona games. Don't really like those ones too much, 1 and 2, but since 3, I've been playing them and been playing the re-releases and remixed versions as well. So I played the games, I like them. Persona's fantastic. I do think that it does a lot of unique things to separate itself, like it's supposed to, from Shin Megami Tensei, which I've also been playing for quite some time. Now, SMT, I love me some SMT. Big fan. Really got into it with SMT 3 Nocturne, then some of the DS games and the 3DS re-releases, and then of course SMT 4, SMT 4 Apocalypse, or SMT 4 Final. So I love me some SMT, but SMT 5, when it comes to the combat, the base SMT, to me, I really felt a bit more of a connection and a vibe with that game over the Persona series with SMT 5, the base version. We're not even talking about SMT 5 Vengeance, which we will in just a bit. So I was already kind of thinking, man, there's a number of things that I like a lot more in SMT 5, even the base, over what Persona 5 and Persona 5 Royal even does. Now, of course, there's a lot of deficiencies with SMT 5, the base version of it. Trust me, I know, with some of the story stuff and some of the performance on the Nintendo Switch, like there's a ton of different things, but the structure and the flow to me was a bit more free-flowing and a bit more liberating overall in terms of the freedom that you have to go about and kind of do what you want, level up when you want, fight when you want, just have at it and have a demon press turn experience. So I actually really like that about the base level of SMT 5. Now with Persona 5 Royal, I've played it at multiple times within the years, and intertwining with SMT games. So Persona 5 Royal, we have the base new release that was on the PlayStation 4, which I did buy and play. Then we had the PlayStation 5 release, Xbox Series, Nintendo Switch release, which was after the base of SMT5 in 2022. But then we had SMT5 Vengeance, which just came out recently in 2024. And that's where I think there is a clear divide for me, at least. SMT5 Vengeance is by far my favorite out of the two. Now that I've played the supreme versions of all the different games in every type of way possible, in 60 frames per second, portable mode, not portable, whatever the case is, I can definitively say, now that I'm 70 something hours in, and I will get you guys a full review of SMT5 Vengeance once I'm done with it, I can definitively say that I like SMT5 Vengeance more than I like Persona 5 Royal on my PlayStation 5 compared to the PS5 version of SMT5 Vengeance. And there's a number of reasons why that's the case. And that's why I think that they can take a number of things when it comes to the freedom and some of the expression in SMT5 and adapt it. Doesn't have to be the same thing. We're not talking about a Persona without the heart here. They still need to be separate. That's what makes them individual and unique. I do not want them making a SMT revert back clone Persona, whatever that means, but you guys get what I'm trying to say here. I don't want them taking the Persona experience and making it into SMT. They need to be separate, but I do think that there's a number of things that are incredibly annoying that I noticed more and more as I played through SMT5 and I did different things. I'm like, man, I remember when I was playing Persona 5 on the PlayStation 5 and man, I was really not enjoying that, but it's just so much more enjoyable here, especially with the overworld and the social links and the structure and certain things like that, which I did feel in the base of SMT5, but having it at that 60 frames and with the fast loading and with certain things, it just really brings some of the advantages to light here. So let's talk about the social links in Persona games have always been a staple of the social sim slash press turn battles, and I get that people like them, but I just feel that they're incredibly restrictive. I think it needs an overhaul and advancement. SMT doesn't really have one at all, and that's fine. It doesn't need one per se, but this needs an overhaul to the point to where if I want to do something with a friend, go out to a game or play some baseball or go to a movie or eat a burger or whatever the case is, I don't need it taking up half my day to where there's only like a day, night, or a quarter of my day or a third of my day. I don't need it doing that. There should be a system or something set in place to where you can do multiple different things and kind of enjoy and not have to worry like, oh, I used up a day doing this. Oh, I have to talk to this. And balancing being a friend dater or whatever the case is. Like, I get people love that, but I think that there is a better way to do it. Now, in games like Fire Emblem Three Houses, for example, they have a social system. They have a point tally and total system to where you can get extra points to do multiple different things in a singular day before the calendar turns over. And I know that there's sometimes in Persona you can do that, but it's way too restrictive, and they've stuck to that day, night, one thing formula now for way too long. So I would love to see that evolve in the next Persona game. It needs a bit of an overhaul, and it also gets to the point to where you can't kind of do everything in one playthrough, which we'll talk about maybe a little bit more at the end here. So that goes into the next thing here, and that's calendar system and the events. I think that once again, there's nothing wrong with doing that. There is absolutely great ways that they've done it before, but since the mid 2000s or so with Persona 3, they've been doing that same calendar experience without too much deviations to it overall, how the calendar works and the day, night, and everything. I would love to see them take that calendar system and kind of just make it a bit more dynamic in terms of your options and what's available and how much is in your day overall. Because yes, there are some deviations from that in the series, but it plays so much like the same overall. So I'd love to see them kind of take it and do something a bit different in terms of overall point tallies that you can get to do different events, along with the social link system overhaul. I think that you can create a familiar experience that's awesome for Persona fans, but then also give people a bit more control and freedom with their day. Now let's get into the next thing here, and we can talk about the Tartarus, Mementos, that thing that you go to all the time and how it's so repetitive, which they did remake Persona 3 with Persona 3 Reload, and they tried to deviate a little bit when it comes to Tartarus, when it comes to looking through and going through the same locations, which Persona 5 has that, Persona 4 has that, And I think that that also needs an overhaul. Yes, they have the awesome palaces, which are great, like their dungeons, which are so elaborate and nice and set up. So they obviously can't create a bunch of unique areas. I mean, they could, but it'd take forever. A bunch of different places outside of what they already have with the palaces. And I completely get that with Persona 5 at least. But I do feel that more effort needs to be taken to kind of differentiate things a little bit outside of color swaps. And if you're going to do a Mementos or Tartarus, it just gets kind of boring. Now, Persona 5 Royal did a good job of trying to make it less annoying with some of the quality of life features and advancements they put in there. And I really appreciate that they did do that, but it's still kind of like drudging along, going through the same looking areas, going down and going through the same randomly generated stuff and trying to get through it. And to me, it just, it's time. It's time for them to think of something else in terms of leveling up and doing that side of the Persona brand. I mean, when I'm playing SMT5 Vengeance, having the freedom to go to all these different locations and being able to explore and have all different types of areas that you can climb and slide down, it's just so much more dynamic. Where mainly you're going to be leveling up. Yes, you can level up in the palaces, but you only have the day to do that, and you have to be mindful of what day it is because there is a somewhat time limit before something happens, which is like every single Persona game. So once again, the restrictions are there, which can be good. It can be good for moving you along, but at the same time, sometimes it's a bit too restrictive and it's a bit too repetitive as well if you're trying to grind on the harder difficulties, level up, get certain things. So to me, it just becomes annoying, and I really realize that with SMT5 Vengeance. So I would love for them to kind of change that up a bit and make a bit more unique areas that you can go through outside of palaces or the big major places to fight the bosses and for the main story. So I'm hoping they do change that up because it's just so repetitive and I don't like it anymore. I'll be honest here. But let's get into really what Persona 5 shines when it comes to it, to me at least, and that's the combat. And the combat system in Persona 5 Royal is fantastic. It's fantastic in SMT5 Vengeance. It's fantastic in Royal, but I do love the fact that SMT5 Vengeance has so many unique traits to demons, unique skills, and they added in things that will actually make you want to keep certain demons with triple team attacks, the different tailsmans you can get, the different unique abilities that can really turn the tide in one way or make you fight more unique. That's something that's not in Persona 5 Royal. They have some things, but it's nowhere near as advanced like they did in SMT5 Vengeance. So I think that's something that you can just take wholesale and maybe even evolve it, and it wouldn't really be an issue because it's not necessarily like an identity of SMT5 Vengeance. It's just something that they added in there to give more unique options when you're using your demons and your customization and your team. Those unique individual skills and certain triple team and double team type of Makatsui meter attacks and all that, that stuff is just lit. So if they can bring something like that and adapt it for the Persona 6 game, the next Persona game, that would be super, super cool. So I'm looking forward to how they progress the press turn battle system. Persona 5 Royal is fantastic with some of the stuff that they added in. They did add some double team attacks and everything that kind of just happened, but SMT5 Vengeance does a way better job with it when it comes to the demons and everything. So I think it's absolutely something that they can evolve or put the Persona spin on what they did there, and they can create something that would be really cool for the Persona series going forward. So I'm looking forward to that quite a bit. So when it comes down to it, guys, Persona is awesome. SMT is awesome. And I'm not trying to create some type of butting of the heads with Persona and SMT. These are both important and great franchises. And obviously Persona is super important as Persona 5 sold over 10 million units, the best-selling Persona game of all time by a country mile, and one of the things that really has propped Atlus up and made them a profitable venture going forward in this era where prices are skyrocketing for everything. So you need that linchpin, you need that game that you can kind of say, okay, that's going to continue to do well for us going forward no matter what. And Persona is that series for Atlas. So I think that this next game is going to be great. I think that they're going to do a lot of cool things, and I think they are going to evolve some of the things and take some of the stuff that I said, and it's going to be built into the game. We've already gotten some of the rumors out there, which I'm not going to say because we don't know. I mean, it's just rumors for right now, but I do think that some of that stuff is going to be implemented in terms of what I said. And we also have some rumors, once again, I'm not going to say too much, that they're going to go to a more open-ended design instead of kind of closed off areas in the overworld, like when you're, not in a palace or not in a place where you can fight, right? Like you have a more open-ended settings instead of segments. Because you have to remember, Persona 5 was still developed with the PS3 limitations in mind. It's still a PS3 game at heart. So now you're jumping up pretty much 2 generations here to the PlayStation 5. So that is a big jump when planning a game compared to planning it to work on a PlayStation 3. So I definitely expect them to expand what we're going to get in the overworld, in the palaces, in the gameplay. It's going to be really cool to see how it all turns out. But what are your thoughts? What are your improvements? What are your things that they can do in order to make Persona 6 the best Persona game possible? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and check out my other Nintendo Switch and RPG videos right here on screen. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.